Is this a design vlog? Maybe. Hi guys, Sarah here, and today I want to talk a little about graphic design in general. So I went to the Google and I wanted to see what happens if I just type in graphic design and what questions come up from, people who have searched general graphic design stuff. So I'm going to do a bunch of those kind of questions, starting with the, I guess, most popular ones, which are, very generic and a little weird. So we're going to do that. And then I'm going to try to do 10 questions in total. And hopefully that gives you some insight onto graphic design if you are looking to become a graphic designer and go into the industry of design. So let's start. I've written them all down in my little book. It's my little, it's actually my sketchbook. It's got like a whole bunch of pages with like dot grids and triangle grids, and I love it. But that's where I wrote my questions because my computer's down there and not up here with me. So first question, is graphic designing a good career? Yes, it's a very generic question. So, it's like asking, is anything good? Well, it depends. It depends on if it's a good career for you, which it might be, whereas it might not be a good career for someone else. So if you are interested in graphic design, it probably would be good if, for example, you are like a creative problem solver. You like solving problems in a creative, visual way. Not always visual, but usually some sort of visual way. Because that's basically what designers do. People come to us with their problems and we solve them with visuals that are effective and work for their needs. What else is good? Well, if you don't like computers, probably you don't go into graphic design. They're a big part. You gotta like computers. That's just part of it. We do the majority, if not all, of the work on computers. And that makes it rather important. What else we got? You need to enjoy learning, which I think, again, is very much kind of every career. If you're a person who really enjoys building new skills and learning new things all the time, reading about new design people and trends and techniques and stuff, then that's really good. And I think that's really what you need to make graphic design a really good career. Now, another factor that obviously plays a big part is where you are working. So that's, and not necessarily specifically where, but with who, what you're doing. I've had graphic design jobs that were both awesome and terrible, where my actual day-to-day tasks were basically the same in both, but it was the people and everything else that kind of made it a good career or not, or a good job. So let's say as a career, it's a good career. I don't know if it's a good career compared to being an accountant or in computer science or a writer. Writing's pretty fun. There's a lot of careers, so it's hard to know if graphic design is a good career for you. So if you do want to know, just kind of explore it. Explore different videos on YouTube and learn a bit of it and take on, pretend projects and see if you actually do enjoy doing it. And if you do, then maybe graphic design would be a really good career specifically for you. So the next question is, do graphic designers get paid well? Which, in general, no, not really. So graphic designers typically, when they're starting out, they don't really make a lot of money. In my own experience, it's that we make, a little bit more than minimum wage when starting out. And then that obviously goes up over the first few years as you gain more experience and learn new skills and just get better overall. There is quite a steep learning curve, I think. Even if you do design school, there's a lot to know, a lot to learn, and yeah, your pay kind of scales with that accordingly. So I think from my own research, I think the average starting range of about 42,000 a year, and this is all average, so it goes beyond there for creative directors, art directors, whatnot, beyond whatever's beyond that. Like chief executive designer. That's a title that should exist. If it doesn't, probably doesn't. But yeah, salary range is it's decent. So, I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not fantastic. People don't go into graphic design for the money. They go in because it is a creative career that they are passionate about, and that is awesome. And if you are really good, if you are really good and you really try and you learn lots of things, you can make very, very good money. So, which is awesome. And that obviously will depend as well on your location. So in a small town, for example, when I started, I was not making much at all. But in bigger towns, obviously they make more or they'll pay more. And I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. If, for example, you are a graphic designer in Vancouver, then no, you will not make enough. It doesn't even matter how much they pay you. You will never make enough because it's so expensive to live in Vancouver. So expensive. Vancouver is lovely. It is one of my favorite cities. It's beautiful, but it is very expensive for rent and a mortgage if you were lucky enough to get a mortgage. So, but if you're there as a graphic designer already. So, next question. So this was a bit of a weird one. The question in Google was, what are 3 methods of graphic design? And I'm really not sure what this is trying to ask. I'm not sure who is actually searching 3 methods of graphic design. Because, I mean, graphic design has a lot of different components to it, but as far as I know, there are no 3 methods. And even when I expanded that question on Google, it just gave me different types of designers. So it couldn't even answer the question. So 3 methods of design. You could say like the 3 C's of design: components, your composition, and your concept. So that could be what the 3 methods of design are, because I mean, that's in everything. You always have your concept, you always have your components, you always have your composition. So like that could be it. But the answer that Google kind of gave was, there are visual designers, there are web designers, there are UI designers, which is just types of graphic designer jobs, which wasn't what I got from the question. What are 3 methods of graphic design? Okay, how about this one? Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign. Yep. I don't know. I mean, these are people who don't know graphic design, Googling graphic design. So that's what you're gonna get, I suppose. So the next question is, what is graphic design for beginners? Which is obviously a question that makes sense to Google if you are not familiar with graphic design. So this would be someone who is, thinking, hey, graphic design looks like a cool career. How do I get started in it? And I mean, there's a lot of different ways, obviously going to design school, or being self-taught, or just learning on the computer, through various courses, through YouTube, which is probably the best one because it's free. Also Skillshare, because Skillshare is amazing. I mean, there's so many ways to learn graphic design, although this question is specifically, what is graphic design for beginners? So from my own experience, graphic design for beginners is Microsoft Paint. Yep. Before I was learning graphic design, that's what I used for everything. It was Microsoft Paint. I used Microsoft Paint in the things that got me into design school for my portfolio. And somehow it worked. So that was weird. It shouldn't have. They were terrible. They were the worst things ever. What is graphic design for beginners? I'm going to say Canva. If you're not a designer, you'll probably want to use like a design app. So you've got Canva, you've got Adobe Spark Post, and like a billion others. There are so many, and I'm only super familiar with a few of them. And then there's others that are a little bit more complex. There's Assembly, which is awesome, but that's more for vector illustration. Extremely, extremely powerful, and it's awesome, and I love it. But it's more illustration than graphic design specifically, although you can do logos in it. So that's awesome. And other things, a lot of people think that if you know Photoshop, you know design, which is obviously untrue. Photoshop is it's a large part of graphic design, but if you know Photoshop, you do not know design. You still need to know the fundamentals and the principles and the concepts and all that stuff behind it. But Photoshop is a really good first step. So I guess that is graphic design for beginners. Not really. But if you do want to know specifically as a new designer, what you can do if you want to learn design, reading books, honestly, is a really good way to go. There is a book called The Non-Designer's Design Book by Robin Williams, different Robin Williams. And this is, I think, one of the first books that I actually got right out of design school, because after design school, I was still extremely overwhelmed with everything that there was to know in graphic design, and I still felt like I really didn't understand a lot of things. Like, I only had partial knowledge. So I spent a lot of time in chapters just looking at different books to read and stuff, and this one really helped me just understand a little bit better some of the things that I wanted to know. And it's very easily explained to, I mean, the book is geared for people who need to do something quick, like I need to do a pamphlet or a rack card or a brochure or something, but I don't have any design experience. It's geared towards the people with zero experience, which is great. And it shows them generally how to do things and very general design principles and stuff. So I thought that was a really good way to learn design for people who don't know design. So I think in general, that is graphic design for beginners. Graphic design for beginners is using design apps or learning design, right? Right? I mean, there's more materials and more resources out now than there ever was when I started in design. So if you actually do want to learn graphic design, you can do it. And you just type it into the Google. Type it into the Google and you will get so many results, so many results. You will learn it. Next question. Oh, this one's sad. Is graphic design a dying career? No, not really. Some people say this and then others obviously don't. And I haven't seen any evidence that graphic design is a dying career, but certain areas or aspects of graphic design are. And a lot of it is what I've previously mentioned with things like Canva and the fact that there are so many different tools and apps and things that you can use to do graphic design. Like if you have zero graphic design experience and you just want to make like an Instagram post or a bunch of Instagram posts, you can use Adobe Spark Post and it'll give you the template. You just put your text in, you put whatever imagery you want or use whatever they have, and you just upload it. And it's very, very easy. And I mean, previously that was something which designers would be tasked with doing. And now we don't, that kind of frees up our time to not do that. Also, it obviously takes some jobs away from designers whose entire job would be just doing tiny little one-off designs for newspaper ads, for everything. And that's not to say that not having design experience is the same, because designers will still know how to emphasize the right pieces of information for hierarchy and how to create a proper composition that you need to actually get the attention, whereas these tools like Spark Post and Canva, you don't have the knowledge behind them. But because they do have the templates, it makes it easier. If that makes sense. I could ramble. I'm gonna stop rambling. So basically, I think graphic design, certain aspects are dying. I feel like there's less business cards being handed out. There might be less print marketing collateral being handed out as a whole. Because we refer a lot to our phones and the computer, digital, web, everything. And that's fine, but someone still needs to design that. So graphic designers do a lot of like UI and UX for games, for phone apps, for web, for digital, and our technology and how we use it online is still evolving. And as long as it's still evolving, there will always be new visuals that designers need to create and compose and make awesome. So graphic designers create the visuals for things. We pair the text with the imagery and we make the composition, we make the ideas come across. That's what we do. And I don't think that specifically is going to go away anytime soon. I think it's gonna be around for quite a while, just in evolving mediums as technology grows. All right, so the next question is, can I be a graphic designer if I cannot draw? And that's a big yes. I am a graphic designer who cannot draw. That's right, I can't draw. I suck, I'm terrible at drawing. Despite what you see on my YouTube channel, which is isometric illustration primarily and vector illustration that is very, very simple. And that has taken me 15 plus years to do. So no, I cannot really draw traditional drawing. I'm at the stick figure level, and I probably will be there always. But I've been kind of more focused on type and hand lettering and hand-drawn typography and very stylized vector illustrations, like isometric illustrations, and that kind of stuff. I mean, I've never really put a lot of focus on traditional drawing and illustrative styles, and if you ask me to draw something right now, it's gonna be really bad. That being said, it is a really awesome thing if you can draw as a graphic designer. A lot of designers have that illustrative background, and it's amazing what they can make. It really is, and it helps them get a job too. So whether you can draw or not, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And it is something you can also, evolve over time. So that can be another skill you add to your skill repertoire, and you can learn it, which is great, because the more skills you do have as a designer, the more likely you are to get a job, get full-time employment, or find better clients, or anything, or get noticed by the interwebs. I call things weird names. Interwebs, the Google. So previously, for example, we have, at my last company, we hired someone specifically because we had a lot of illustrative client work, and we needed someone who could do not only graphic design and that kind of work, but also illustrative work as well. And he really enjoyed doing the illustration, and he was fantastic at it. So that's pretty much what he did. We gave him all the illustration projects, and he was awesome. And then when he left, we needed to hire another illustrator, and I think we had another one as well. And it was great because they were graphic designers with very strong illustrative skills who kind of opened the doors in a lot of ways for different things that we could do. So for example, we did a lot of like animation with those illustrative skills. So the animators would work with the illustrative graphic designers, and they just worked really well together. And but that's the same thing. If you're a graphic designer who has very, very base level graphic design skills, then that's great. But it's always going to be so much more helpful. I was going to say so much more better. So much more helpful to have an area of graphic design that you just absolutely excel in. So, when they say, you should specialize and not generalize, I think it's kind of half and half. I think you need to be a generalist with every area of graphic design. You need to know how to design for print, for web, for using the main software. You need to know all that stuff. That's your base level. And then having a graphic design specialty will just kind of boost you so much higher in your career. And that could be illustration, it could be very stylized illustration, it could be motion graphics or like animation, anything that's kind of like design adjacent, then that really, really helps. So no, you do not need, going back to the original, no, you do not need to know how to draw to be a graphic designer. And I've been doing this for a while without knowing how to draw, by deferring those projects to other designers who can. But if you can draw, then by all means, it will help. It definitely will help. So that's all I have to say about that. Okay, so the next question is, what education do you need to be a graphic designer? The answer is none. I mean, graphic designers aren't lawyers, we're not doctors. It's not, you need to go to med school or you need to go to law school. It's not like that. You do need to know what you're doing, but if you want to be a graphic designer, you do not need to have any formal education. When I'm looking to hire someone, I never look at the resume first. It's always portfolio first, see if the work is good, see if they explain their process in any amount of detail, see if they know what they're doing. And yeah, the portfolio is the door. So if your portfolio is awesome, then I will go look at your resume. If your portfolio sucks, I don't care what schools you went to. I really don't. You could have a PhD in graphic design from 50 different schools. If your portfolio sucks, it does not matter. Okay, this is I feel like I'm lecturing. It's a visual career, and what you can create on a visual and conceptual level is what matters. You can do that, you can get the understanding behind that and the education from that all on your own. You do not need to go to design school to do it. Is it easier? It could be. I mean, for certain people. For me specifically, I learn a lot when I'm in an academic setting, but I've also learned a ton on my own. So it really depends what kind of learner you are, and if you really like reading books and watching videos online, because that helps too. You will learn a lot from that as well. No real formal education required. Even if a job posting says it, they're lying. They're lying to you. But if you want a degree, by all means, go and get a degree. Education is a good thing, people. Any kind of education. Education is great. We like education. Education is good. Whether it's your own or it's from an institution you pay tens of thousands of dollars to go to. Both is good. Although student loan debt is really terrible. Next question number 8 is graphic design hard? This kind of comes back to, is graphic design a good career? So is graphic design hard? Yes and no. A lot of aspects of graphic design are very difficult. The constantly needing to be creative, the stress, the very tight deadlines, that can always be it can be very hard. It can be very hard to deal with, especially when you are a new designer and you've come out of college, maybe design school, where you'll have like a week to design a poster that's very simple, or 2 weeks or something, and then you get a design job, and they're like, hey, okay, I need this poster in, can you do 20 minutes? And you're like, what? No, I can't do 20 minutes. Are you insane? And that's kind of how that goes. Usually it's a bit more time, but honestly, it's like, okay, somebody forgot to do this task. Can you do this for me now? And you find yourself designing like a full sequence of posters or business cards that have to be to the printer in an hour. And that is a very regular thing, unfortunately. I'm not saying it's a good thing. It's a poor time management on managers' part thing, but it happens a lot. If you work for a company that is really, really well organized, really knows what they're doing, has very professional people, then it makes it so much easier, especially as a new designer, because there is a significant learning curve, especially for each company and how they organize all their projects. Having people who are willing to work with you and let you have the time to understand the process in a professional design environment is really important. You need that. And I had that, thank goodness, because it's very, very helpful. Graphic design, it can be very hard, and there is a lot to know. And if you want to do really, really well as a graphic designer, you do need to learn all the time. Learn about branding, learn about marketing, learn about social media marketing, learn about typography. That's actually a big one. You should go do that one now. So yes, it's a hard career, but it's not a physically demanding career, which I think is both good and bad. So if you're someone who does just want to sit and work and maybe on certain projects listen to music, listen to an audiobook, you can do that, which is really, really great, depending on the job that you're doing. But I mean, the other side of that is it's not a very physical job. So you get no exercise. It's a lot of sitting at your computer and just munching on some chips or chocolate or whatever, and designing for hours and hours and hours a day until you get up and you realize you've been sitting in a chair for 14 hours and your back is just completely like compressed and you can't stand properly, and then you have issues going forward forever where you can't stand for long periods of time without significant pain. So in that way it's hard. But in other ways it's great. It is a creative career, so if you are a creative person, it is great because you get to be creative. You get to let all those creative juices just flow out of you. It gets hard in the beginning and then it gets easier as you know what you're doing. If you're in those beginning stages of designing, it will get better. You will learn. Just keep at it. And if you are brand new to graphic design, haven't touched Photoshop, just know that it will be hard in the beginning. And you gotta learn, you gotta get over it and get over the hump, get over that severe difficulty hump, and then you'll just kind of flow with it. And then there'll be more as you learn different programs and things that come out all the time. Like Figma, for example, is not something I was taught in design school because it didn't exist. So you need to do a lot of learning as you go. So question 9 is, where do graphic designers find work? Physically, they find work online. I have found jobs on Craigslist, not in the newspaper, but that's obviously not what the question is asking. Where do graphic designers find work? Specifically, like where? So graphic designers, I kind of like to divide it up into, I guess, 3 categories. So there are agency designers, in-house designers, as well as freelance designers. Now, freelance designers are obviously, you're doing your own thing, you're your own boss, you take clients with contracts and all that stuff. And I don't really do freelance design, so I'm not really going to talk on that one too much, but that is another category of designers. So going back to the agency and the in-house, so typically you'll have like an agency, so that would be like a marketing agency that does various marketing work for clients. So in that kind of scenario, you might get to your desk and do a business card for one client and then work on a logo for another client. And you'll be working with a lot of different brands. And in an agency setting, there's a lot of other designers working with you, and you learn a lot, which is great. You learn a lot from the other designers, and that's really nice. And then the other is in-house designer. Now, in-house means that you aren't working at an agency, essentially. So that means, for example, you want to work at IKEA, for example, as a graphic designer. So you would be their in-house designer working on IKEA ads, on the IKEA website, on IKEA pamphlets. And a lot of big companies have their in-house designers. They also work with marketing firms for campaigns and stuff, but they have their in-house designers for the kind of everyday stuff, which basically just means that you work on that one brand every single day as your job, which is great because you obviously get to know that brand really, really well. But it is potentially a little less exciting because you're not doing a lot of different stuff. But again, that's really, really going to depend on the company you're with. So, and how much, I guess, power you have creatively, how much creative control you have. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Although, I mean, now designers are working a lot online because there's so many different remote jobs, and that's awesome. That is awesome because graphic designers do have that opportunity because we don't need to be anywhere in person. We can do meetings via video. We can send files. We can do entire projects without ever having to sit in the same room as a client. We can get the money. We can do all of it without even being in the same country, which is really awesome. And I think that's the way we're going. And I love that so much. So much. Point is, you can work for anyone in the world as a graphic designer, technically. So that's another place you can find work, essentially, is anywhere, ever. Okay, so the very last question number 10. Number 10 is, how do you design a logo? Everyone seems to have their own kind of process. Every different designer I've met has a slightly different process, but it all kind of boils down to the same sort of process. And I do actually have a blog post on this. I do. And I will put it in the link in the description, like I would with that other book that I mentioned before. So the process essentially is you research. First you research the client and the brand, and you figure out what direction you want to go for that brand, for the logo, before you ever start putting anything down on paper. So research, lots of research is step 1. Step 2 is sketching. So you get your little pencil and your notebook, and ideally grid paper. Just gonna grid paper, or my favorite is dot grid paper, and you sketch. You sketch out all your concepts. You get anything that's in your head, you get it down on paper. It also works with, if you have an iPad, you can use the Apple Pencil with Procreate, and you can have like a pencil brush, and I love it so much. So that is basically, yeah, you sketch all your ideas out until you have anywhere from 1 to 1,000 pages of ideas. It's not that many, it's like 5 pages. After that, you would have at least one idea that you want to move forward with. So you would bring it to the computer then, and you would draw it in the computer in a vector-based software program like Adobe Illustrator or Affinity Designer. And you would vectorize it up and you would polish it, and you can continue to modify it based on that. I find my ideas come in a very different way on paper as they do on the computer. So I have a lot of different ideas, and it helps on the computer when you can just do copy paste, different aspects of the logo and try very subtle variations of things that is a lot quicker to do on computer than on paper. So that's one fun thing I enjoy doing. So once you have a logo that you really, really love on the computer, then you are essentially done that stage. Then you, it depends if you have a creative director or a design manager or project manager or whatever, it depends on the structure of your company. Then you would show your logo probably to someone, and then there might be further tweaks after that. Or if it's totally done and you're a freelance designer, you show the client. If it is a logo, for example, which is what we're talking about, you don't usually show it as is. You want to give a logo some context, because in real life logos aren't usually seen on their own. And what I mean by that is like putting your logo on a mock-up. So finding like a t-shirt and putting the logo on the t-shirt, or a hat, put the logo on a hat, or a bag, or do up like a full stationary mock-up to see what the logo looks like in the real world, because a lot of clients, they just need to see that, and you need to see that too. You need to know that it actually works when it's on things that it will be on when it is done. So once you've got that, your client will either hate it or love it. Your boss will either hate it or love it, or most likely just be like, I like this, but I don't like this. And you'll make more tweaks. And then again, the process, you'll send it out again, potentially more tweaks, and back and forth and back and forth. Design is a very iterative process, so there's a lot of back and forth all the time. That's normal. That is completely normal. That is just what we do. That's the nature of the job. So get used to that a little bit. And then once your logo is completely done, so everyone loves it, it's the best thing that's ever been made, then you would ideally get it printed depending on, I mean, it depends what the client needs it for. If the client needs a logo for having a logo, then you would probably send them various versions of it for their needs. Like you would send them a full color version, a 2-color version, a reversed version that they can use on darker things, different file extensions, so versions that they can use for t-shirt designs, different versions for web, and a whole assortment of things that they might need for various purposes. And after that, I mean, that's pretty much it. I'm not gonna go beyond, because that is basically it. It really, after that, it kind of depends. It's research, sketch, polish, showcase. Again, I could go into this in a lot more detail, but I'm trying to keep it a little bit simpler. I imagine the people watching this are people who are trying to get into graphic design, or trying to figure out if they are interested in getting into graphic design at all. And yeah, I hope this helps. All right, I think I'm done. I'm gonna put some resources in the description below. I'm going to put a link to the book I mentioned, the Non-Designer's Design book, in addition to some salary data and blog posts that are relevant for anyone who wants to learn more about anything I kind of talked about. And that's it. I don't have anything more to say. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want me to do more videos like this, I can. Obviously, this is different from my normal videos. I usually do the actual designing videos with either speed designs or voiceover design work on the computer. Very different format than this. And hopefully I can do more of this. If you like it, if you don't, then just like thumbs down it. But if you do like it, then thumbs up it, because that's really helpful. Because then I actually know if you want me to make more of these. But I don't have to. I don't have to. It could be all thumbs down, and then I'll never make a live action video again. Is this a live action video, or is it like a vlog? Is this a design vlog? Maybe. I got nothing else. All right. So if you like learning more about design and are interested in design, whatever, just subscribe if you want to subscribe, or don't. Totally up to you. You do what you gotta do. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys next time. Bye.